Hello, everybody, and welcome to Living with Parkinson's Meetup with the Davis-Phinney Foundation. We're super happy to have you here. My name is Melanie Dizon. I'm the Director of Education at the Davis-Phinney Foundation, and I'm here with this amazing panel of people. We can't wait to talk to you today. Okay, let's start with some introductions for those of you who are new or haven't been with us for a while. Let's do that. Kat, can you start us off?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kat Hill, and I am a Davis-Phinney Foundation ambassador, and I am currently in Sisters, Oregon. I am living with my husband and small dog in an Airstream trailer, and I used to be a nurse midwife delivering babies and directing a busy inner city hospital practice. That's me today. Tomorrow, maybe something else.
Thanks, Kat. Tom?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Polizzi. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm an ambassador for the Phinney Foundation, have been for a number of years. And I wish I was following around Kat in her camper, but I'm stuck here in Denver.
Thanks,
I
Tom.
wish you were too, Tom.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sri.
Hi, I'm Shri. I'm a Davis-Phinney ambassador, and I have Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else to say, but yeah, I have this lovely bottle of peach tea with me because I'm a little dehydrated. So make sure you're all hydrated in this hot weather.
Nice.
There we go.
And Shri, where are you calling in from?
Oh, California, this Bay Area.
Okay, awesome. Hi, Pam Quinn. Glad to see you here. Heather.
Good to see so many names here popping up. I just saw Pam Quinn and some other friends of ours. I'm Heather Kennedy. I work as an advocate and an activist for Parkinson's. I'm passionate about this. Any kind of education or any kind of information I can put out there, I'll use whatever I can to just get the info out there and pass the mic along. And we're just so glad you're here today. This is really exciting. And I'm honored to be representing Davis-Phinney Foundation because I have something to tell you about this organization a little later.
Later.
Dun, dun, dun.
Heather knows how to keep you hanging. I love it. She's a writer. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to ask our panelists first, but I think I'm going to ask everybody in the chat first. We would love to know, what is your greatest challenge that you're facing right now? What is your greatest challenge? We have, I'm going to have the panelists answer that as well, but I'd love to know from you guys. We want to freezing. Okay, great. Yeah, we want to get a sense of what's really important to you and what is bowel incontinence. Great. Balance. Yes. Voice issues, the depression aspects of PD, discrimination in my industry. Interesting. Awesome. Feeling hopeful, mobility, apathy, disconnected from social groups, memory. Oh my gosh, so many things, right?
Heat. I saw too. Heat.
Oh, yeah.
Weather. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure. Off times, constipation,
Dystonia.
concerns about providing for my family. Absolutely. Levels of energy changing throughout the day, loss of taste, smell, humidity. Great. Okay. We have so much to talk about. And I would love
all in an hour.
We're going to get it all done. We're just going to figure it all out. So panelists, based on this, is there anything you want to start with? Because I feel like you guys are going to have a lot to say, and I think people in the chat. And also, don't be afraid to share your experience and any tips and tricks that you have in the chat with people, because we save the chat and then we share that information, and so people learn a lot from being in the chat. Yeah, Heather.
I can pick up on something that I just saw, the impact on the care partners. I just want to say, for the record, we talk a lot about how Parkinson's impacts all of us, and we're all acutely aware that this disease affects everyone around us, especially the ones that we love the most. And we didn't volunteer for this. I mean, we did for the panel, but we didn't volunteer to have Parkinson's, and we do our best to manage, but communication is going to come up a lot in our talk today. So I just wanted to add that in. We really appreciate people here that are here to support those of us with Parkinson's. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind tackling the one that I saw about heat and tremor, and part of what I'm dealing with personally. First off, I'm not going to have any perfect answers for anybody, but what I'm learning is that I just don't regulate my body temperature well at all anymore. And and traveling around and being in slightly different microclimates, I'm trying to really learn how to take care of myself and my symptoms when I can't control the weather, which is all the time. So, and part of what I'm learning is that I just can't be in the hot heat for very long in high temperatures. We've had some moments where we haven't been able to plug in our Airstream, so I haven't had air conditioning. And what I've found is that I get almost heat exhaustion really quickly. I sweat, I feel faint, and it's frustrating because, I'm working hard to not let Parkinson's rule my life or be defined by that, but then to have such a profound physical reaction to something that I didn't used to have. I mean, I swim team for years growing up. I grew up in the hot Central Valley in California, and literally I am brought to my knees by the heat, and then it's hard to recover from. And so I'm trying to learn some ways to get creative about planning for that. One of them is we just are going to have to travel places where we have electricity and can plug in. Or I'm going to need to spend the hottest part of the day somewhere in air conditioning or in a pool or by a river that I can dip my feet in. And so I'm having to change and pivot my life a little bit in the moment, place to place to do that. And that's hard. That's some giving up. That's some loss. That's different than I thought we would be out traveling. So there's some sadness, but I also think that it becomes really clear that it's not comfortable and sustainable to be out in the heat. So, and all my symptoms are worse. I tremor more. It takes me 2 days to recover. My dystonia, it's almost like my meds don't work as well when I'm fighting that hard to regulate my temperature. So even though I can hydrate, put water on, do all the safe things. I mean, I'm a nurse. I can lay down and get my feet up and prevent myself from fainting, but it's a little embarrassing to do that in the middle of a campground, so anyway, I'm learning a lot. It's humbling, brings me to my knees.
It's all about adjustments, right?
It's all about adjustments and the pivot. I'm going to quote our dear friend Kevin, pivot, but not falling is my hope.
I have a quick question for you, Kat. How long has it been that you've been experiencing this?
So I will say it's gotten progressively more acute. In other words, my window of tolerance has gotten smaller and smaller the last few years. I've been living in a house with the ability to switch the temperatures pretty easily. So that makes me not notice it as much when I'm outside a lot more. It definitely has been more acute the last couple of months in the heat when it got really hot. Yeah.
It's been with me for a long time. I think
Has it?
one of the first things I was unable to do is regulate my body temperature. It's been
So
really.
Did you sweat more, or how
yes.
did you know that? Yeah, so that started
profusely.
early.
Yep, that started early, and I can't really have a tough time regulating my body temperature, which is causes stress and all kinds of stuff. And like all the symptoms just expound on themselves, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So learn how to cool my body.
Does it happen in the cold too for you, Tom?
No, unfortunately not. It doesn't really happen much in the cold. I don't have much trouble keeping my body warm. It's a lot. I think it's a lot more difficult to cool your body than it is to keep your body warm. Of course, I don't ski much anymore and stuff like that, so I'm not out in it. And the humidity racks up. That's what makes it really bad. It compounds it big time.
Yeah, I think Kat, and also, obviously we can't control the weather no matter what, but being mobile, like you just have to be you're in the elements all the time. Like even if you're, can find somewhere that you can go, you're still dealing with that. And if it's, it could be a half an hour too long, and then you're not doing great. I can't even remember where I was hearing this. I think we were talking about it yesterday at work, but they were talking about how in super, super hot places, Dubai, everything like that, they actually drink really, really hot tea when it's 1,000,000 degrees. And that's something that works for them. So that sounds awful in my opinion, like to drink hot tea when it's really hot out, but that's a strategy that people have used. And then also they say covering up
Yeah.
is actually, counterintuitive, but it does, it helps if you have like a lot of, especially like those really light SPF, like long white shirts, white things like
Yeah.
that
Right.
help.
Yeah, like,
And I think
yeah,
there are techniques to cool your body, that you can use. Like I'll have a cold rag. I'll literally put it over my head, around my neck, and that helps a lot.
Right.
Something I used to wear when I rode my bike more and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some tools and techniques you can learn to cool your body quickly, which helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Just running your hands under cold water, right in your wrist, just putting your wrist right into the
right
cold
here,
water.
yeah.
Yeah, just really cools it down nice and quick, and opening your hands because they act like radiators, can dissipate the heat much quicker than normal. So
And then
I've
don't
learned-
move.
yeah, don't move. Yeah,
And
exactly.
then don't
Find a
just don't
fan.
in general.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting. And probably I had it longer. Now that you're asking, it's very interesting. I wrote everything off to perimenopause, but it may indeed have been Parkinson's. So,
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you.
I think another one of the issues that came up a lot in the chat, and I feel like I'm getting more emails about this topic lately, is just falling, is balance, falling, moving around, figuring out how to move in your home without having to do some crazy remodel and stuff like that. Like what, I'd love to talk to you, panel members, if you can share any information that you have around balance challenges, falling challenges, things that you do on a regular basis, things that you're noticing as your symptoms progress, that we can share with this group. And Heather, I think you immediately went off mute, so I think you probably have something here.
Well, I just want to say for the record, when I was first diagnosed, I was pretty cocky. I'm like, oh, we got this. How hard could it be? You're going to take the world by storm. And I jump out of bed and go work out and get on my Bosu ball and balance and show everybody how easy it was. And as time progressed, I get out of bed now and I fall flat on my face if I try to do that. In fact, I can't get out of bed. I have to rock around for a while. So in terms of balance and falling, if you catch yourself doing that little stutter step, what I would recommend, pause, take a beat. I don't care if people are behind you in the doorway and you're stalled. Take a beat, take a breath, do a count in your head, whatever you need to do. I don't care how crazy it looks. Just stop what you're doing and be like, and do a little march to get yourself going, or jump up and down if you can. Carry a walking stick with you so people don't push you if you're in public. But in private, there are a number of exercises you can do. We can get into those details later. I don't want to waste too much time on those details, but there are a number of PT people that can help you. There are people within our community. Davis Phinney can offer some resources on that. Freezing and getting stuck in balance are a problem, and they continue to be a problem. So we've got to work with it. So stay tuned.
Somebody said in the chat, they said that their biggest problem was getting to the bathroom and back to bed alive every night. That cracked me up. That could be me easily.
It's helped me a lot to only have 2 steps between my bed and my toilet. I'm thinking about padding it.
Who knew we'd be
Yeah.
crawling?
Yeah.
So I think, a lot of people, whether if they've not even fallen yet, they have a big fear of it, right? Because they hear, oh, falling is the #1 reason, and this is the biggest problem. And it's also obviously one of the cardinal symptoms, motor symptoms, is postural instability, which creates balance problems and falling. Have any of you had real scares or real any fears around it? Because I think that piece is big, like really nervous about it. And so that can't help, right? Your nervous system actually gets all out of whack when your head is not in the right place.
Yeah, it's just that multitasking thing that kind of concerns me. Like early in the morning or at night, if I'm just trying to get to the bathroom, then make sure you're not carrying anything. Because if I'm trying to carry something and walk, that's like stupid. So I just make sure I don't even carry a cane. It takes me 20 minutes to get to the 4 steps to my bathroom and back. But sometimes it just seems like it takes forever. And to just take your time, like Heather said, just relax and concentrate and focus on just the walking, breathe and take it. I always take a step thinking about, I put my heel down first and follow with my toes. Heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. Until like, and then sometimes I can go on like a bat out of hell and then all of a sudden I get to a corner. Make sure you got something to grab onto.
Right. Pam, awesome. Yeah, you can, this is a great point. You can restructure your environment to prevent falling. Use painter's tape on the floor, make a ladder to get to the bathroom, put furniture nearby so you have something to hold on to. Watch out for rugs. Yeah, that's super great advice. The other, sorry, I got distracted. The other piece is that there are lots of tools that companies have created for balance issues. Like somebody talked about the U-step. That's a thing. The next stride is something great. Urban polling or any poles, walking. I'll tell you a story. It's still probably after all of my time at Davis Phinney Foundation, it's my favorite story. We were doing an event called The Little Big Things, and we had all of these different devices and inventions that people had come up with. And there was a gentleman that came into the event in a wheelchair. He could not move around at all by himself. You know, we were getting him into the bathroom and getting him back in the wheelchair. And later on in the day, we had somebody from Urban Polling there, and I look up and I see him with his poles basically running across the floor. It was unbelievable. He rolled into that event totally unable to move around, and by the end he had these poles and he was moving really easy. So, you know, part of it is like the pole is, you know, it comes up, and so it's giving your eye a trigger, you know, to go forward. It's helping you with balance. There's so many cool things about the poles. Yeah, Sam just put in a link that where we talk about pole walking, but a lot of other people have mentioned it in here as well. And somebody actually emailed me yesterday and said that they are looking for somebody to create a trike kind of thing that works in the house. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I talked to somebody today, and hopefully, I don't know, there's people that are really interested in creating things like this. So hopefully we'll get to that to somebody, but I thought that was a great idea. It's not some giant trike, right? You need it to be small enough that you can pedal it. I almost picture like a little kid's trike that just has bigger room for your knees or something that, you know, that you could get around. But any other tools that this group has used that have been helpful?
Well, there is a trike out there that's just a really small one. It's very lightweight, easy to carry around, put into a trunk of a car. That has a small, very small seat on it, but it's something that you can easily use. I know a couple people.
Can you use it in the house?
Yeah, very much so.
Oh,
yeah. I'll find out
the name of it.
I will. I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Okay, great. We're going to put that in the chat. And if you happen to be watching and you're the one who emailed me, we might already have the answer for you. Anyone else have any other tools that they use?
So I would totally echo what everybody else has said. And what I find where I have the most trouble is if I need to go to the bathroom urgently. And so what I try to do is go back plan from that and just go to the bathroom often so that I don't get in a situation where I'm trying to rush to the bathroom and end up incontinent and on the ground. I know that sounds funny, but it's an embarrassing thing. And I, that's when I'm in the most trouble, when I back myself into a corner. So, trying to back plan, always, you know, go to the bathroom before I'm out doing anything, and then knowing where the bathrooms are. I know it sounds funny, but if I know what's going to trigger my trying to go too fast and getting symptomatic and tumbling, then I try to, you know, it's kind of building my world again around the Parkinson's, even though I don't like doing that. But
yeah,
there are bathrooms.
You set an alarm?
No, I don't. It's more a habitual thing. If I'm going to leave where I am, I always go to the bathroom first.
Yeah.
When I was at my home, I did a lot of walking in my neighborhood. So what I didn't do was go to coffee and then try to make it home to go to the bathroom. I would go at the coffee house, even if I had to wait or whatever. So it's, you know, it's kind of that dual thing, that urinary urgency and frequency, and the then falling because I'm trying to get home so fast I'm tripping over my feet. So
It's
Yeah.
like voting
But
early
a
and
timer's a
often.
good idea. But see, I yell at my watch. Watch, you're not in charge of me. The timer will go off and I get sassy. I'm in charge of my life. So
What were you saying, Tom?
I said it's like voting early and often.
Oh,
You know,
right.
Bathroom early and often.
A
Yeah,
lot of
true.
people have mentioned, just before we leave the subject, about getting to the loo on time. Obviously, if there's urgency with something and your motion's in, as soon as you think you have to go, it's like an avocado, you're ripe now. So what I try to do is I make sure that I have handles in specific places on the way to my own bathroom. If I'm somewhere else, I count the steps or the lines on the floor, or I envision myself having a beat. I will literally say da 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 da, which is great to go to the bathroom. And if you have a partner, they're like, "What are you doing? It's 3 a.m. You're singing Bee Gees." Do it anyway. That's my tip for the day.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Let's see. So many.
I
things
know.
we
I feel
can
like
talk
I want to get
about.
it all in.
Okay.
about- What about stress? I mean, we talk about that a
Stress.
lot, but you talked about what's the thing that's bothering me most these days. It's got nothing to do with Parkinson's. It's my Parkinson's reaction to my mom moving into a home, into a new place. And that's been really stressful for me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my gosh, it's been awful. But anyway, that's just managing the stress in the daily environment can sometimes be daunting. Man, that's something I still have yet to figure out how to master, but or at
Yeah.
least get through okay. That's been a struggle the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, because Parkinson's is just one of many,
Mhm.
being a normal human that has all these stressors. Unfortunately, you're in the position where stress can have a much bigger impact
Yeah.
because of your symptoms. What symptoms do you notice get worse, Tom, with stress?
Everything. Yeah, it really compounds. It's unbelievable how much it affects me. Like I can't stay on through a normal cycle of meds when it's like this. You know, I end up being about a half hour short. Then I go through a really deep off period. Like I'm just coming out of the off period now, trying to get back on for this, but that's really annoying for me. And then of course you have all the other things going on with the heat and humidity and blah, 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 like we talked about before. Makes things tough. So, and again, it's all the symptoms.
Yeah. What about others on the panel when stress is bigger in their life?
well, I left my job because the stress I just was feeling so awful. And I wasn't diagnosed when I left. I was trying to figure out what was wrong, right? And I loved my job, but it was unpredictable. It was long hours and it was a high stress job. And so what I found was that by decreasing my stress level, it helped me to manage my Parkinson's. And but I had to make significant changes, and we can't change everything, right? I lost my mom that year. Life continues to happen. I had teenagers, there was no control there. And like Tom, we can't affect what the other people that are going on in our world. I'm going to mute for a second and I'm going to hand it off.
We don't mind dog barkies, but
I
go ahead,
was-
Heather.
I was just going to say, we suffer such consistent loss. Like Tom was just mentioning, having to move his mother into a home, which is extremely stressful, or caring for elderly or caring for children, or, none of this happens in a vacuum. We have people in our lives that we really love, and there's always going to be something happening we feel powerless about. And we feel powerless in our own bodies. So that constant loss, to manage that anxiety that comes with that constant loss, I really feel for you, Tom. And we can all, like Kat says, and I'm sure Sri could, there's a lot of loss. So just being aware of and being gentle with ourselves in that arena really helps. So.
Yeah.
True.
Sri, do you have anything to share on this topic, or anything that we've talked about?
I'm just waiting my meds to kick in.
Okay.
We
It's
feel
taking
you.
No problem. I just
a
didn't
lot
want you
longer than I anticipated.
that I
so-
wasn't
We
No,
feel
no,
you.
no, I'm fine. I'm just like,
Okay.
my whole body is kind of frozen at this
Okay.
point. But So I'm just looking at myself and I'm like, oh, it's always bitch face. That's great. I'm just staring at myself and I'm like, am I falling
Less
asleep
lying.
am I falling asleep on Zoom? So anybody who watches this after can slowly see the process of someone frozen and waking up. And
Yeah.
right at the call ends, then my energy the meds will kick in and my face will start moving and I'll be like brain working. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, no, I was just seeing if there was anything around stress that you've had to
On-
deal with.
I think dealing with Parkinson's itself is stressful. So not regardless, but outside of that, you've got all the life stress, kids, parents, driving a car, backing out of the driveway when I'm driving is stressful for me. A lot more now, having to pay attention to the left-hand mirror, the rear view mirror, the right-hand mirror. It's all very stressful. And especially when you're driving on the freeway, having to manage a car moving in close to you gives me anxiety. So like it used to, like when you're driving and you see a car on the left lane or the right lane parallel to you, and I'm like, oh my God, why am I getting so anxious? This anxiety starts to build up and I get stressed. I'm like, am I going to respond quickly enough? Am I going to know what I'm doing? And I haven't had any problems. A lot of us experience anxiety while driving. So I hope nobody in the DMV or the CPD or whatever is listening to this. I'm perfectly capable of driving, everyone. But it's anxiety inducing. And the other thing that's anxiety inducing is closed spaces now. So for me, that's stressful. And as part of my job, I have to be, because I'm a visual journalist full time now, I have to be part of crowd. So the other day I was covering a major event where a famous Indian film star from the South was in town and the crowds were just overwhelming, people yelling and screaming and trying to get him. And I'm in the middle there photographing, and the security people were like, you can't move, you can't move. And I'm thinking there's like 40, 50 people surrounding me. No one is wearing a mask. My mask broke. And I'm just starting to have this anxiety attack. This stress is happening to me. And I'm like, I have to get out of this crowd. I cannot be in this crowd. So it's very overwhelming for me. So I have to learn how to manage that. But I was not expecting to be so crowd, whatever the word for that is. You know what I mean? And I noticed this happening to me before I was diagnosed, actually, that I did not like crowds and I would get very claustrophobic. So, there's that stuff I have to deal with. So I think, as Tom mentioned, everything gets worse with stress. Everything.
Oh, yeah.
And for people who even don't have Parkinson's, there's a great book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky, who I love, a professor at Stanford University and I think a neuroscientist and a scientist. And it really goes into detail about how stress affects the body. And I recommend that book to everybody. And it does mention Parkinson's briefly, but if you're just a human without any major conditions, you're going to be affected by stress. If you have Parkinson's, you're going to be affected by stress. Just thinking about what Parkinson's is going to do, how you're going to progress, how you're not going to progress, looking at other people around you who have Parkinson's disease, thinking if you're going to end up being like them. Just the very fact that we are alive with Parkinson's is stressful in itself. And add anything on top of that, it amplifies it extremely. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that last point you made as well was just so, we see it in the chat. It's the worry, right? The borrowing trouble from the future. Am I going to get dementia? Am I going to get dystonia? Am I going to fall? Am I going to lose my mental capacity? All of those things, you might as well have them. The worry is so severe and deep, right?
Yeah.
So what are some, what do you do? Somebody says, hey, I worry that I'll get dystonia. How do people cope, manage, or treat it? They don't have it yet, but like they're worried about the treatment, right? Because that's what we do. So what are some things that you do when you're in the moment and you start going, oh my God, or you see somebody who's worse than you and you're like, oh my gosh, what do you do?
I'll quickly answer that and then hand it over to Kat. I just don't worry about it. When I worry about it, I just say I'm not going to worry about it. Or because I can't, because it's so overwhelming that I cannot let myself go there. So when I start to go there, I just think in the moment right now, I don't have this problem. So don't think about it. But I can hold myself off for maybe 30 minutes, for an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And then I'll call my doctor. I'll send my doctor an email saying I'm worried about it. And she's great at calming me down. She says, well, you're doing great now. You're a slow progressor. Do not worry. And you're not going to suddenly one day start waking up and freezing. She's like, it doesn't happen like that. You're not going to be just fine, happily jumping around. And then one day it just like happens, she's like, there's a pattern to these things. So just relax. And she calms me down immensely. And I'll call friends like Kat and Heather and Tom, you're on the list. I'm going to start calling you one day. But, you know, they really calm me down too. And they let me know, you know, just take it day by day, take it hour by hour. And then I just watch Netflix. I'll watch Netflix. I'll eat chocolate. I'll eat ice cream, anything to get me relaxed and happy. And then it goes into denial. So I go through a lot of different stages to get me over it, but I'll hand it over to Kat so she can say what she had to say.
I love that, Sri. I love when you call me. You know, I think part of it is acknowledging that we're going to have moments in the rabbit hole, what I like to call that rabbit hole thinking. And I think whether you have Parkinson's or whether you don't have Parkinson's, you're going to have some moments in the rabbit hole. I think with Parkinson's, there are things that happen that make it more triggering for us. We have more physical symptoms when we're there. And I think we have a choice when we're there. I think acknowledging that we're going to be there some and trying to learn and give ourselves tools, just like Sri said, tools how to get out of it. So acknowledging it, accepting it, grieving it, and then how do I get out? And the more practice that we have in getting out of that rabbit hole and even laying down pathways in our brain to do it. Okay, when I'm feeling sad, I know that I'm gonna, you know, watch my favorite Netflix comedy. I'm going to try to go for a walk, or, you know, whatever you do, I'm going to have a bubble bath. I'm going to call my best friend. And the more practice we have at digging ourselves out of that rabbit hole, the better we're going to get at it. And I think, you know, life is progressive and degenerative. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I get it, the ray of sunshine, right? We're all going to die someday. Woo! But so I think practicing and allowing and trying not to judge it, because I think where we get stuck is then we get mad at ourselves because we're stressed. We have more symptoms, then we're mad at those, and we're bummed because we're having more symptoms, and gosh darn it, it's more loss. And it's, yeah, exactly. It gets bigger and bigger. I love it. I'm going to narrate while Heather acts out my thought.
This is an improv. We didn't tell you that.
But I think we have the ability as human beings to learn things. And I think it's easy to think about giving up and closing the doors and making our world really small and padding everything and putting handles everywhere and not picking up our phone. But when we do that, we're digging ourselves further in that rabbit hole and reinforcing that rabbit hole thinking. And there's going to be a really good book coming out about this.
No,
I know, I'm just totally self-hyped. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but these but I really believe this, and it's really worked for me, and it may not work for you, but it works for me. Anyway, the book will be out, they're saying now next month, but anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But really, I think you can do it. If I can do it, if I can learn how to dig out of that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
I think anybody can. You know,
It's certainly worth the time investing in that for sure. I totally agree with you, Kat, and I'm looking forward to the book myself. So that'll be fun. But somebody brought up worrying about dyskinesias. You know, I worried about that for a long time, and then what I discovered was quite the opposite that I thought would be. I've actually lost a bunch of weight because I'm moving all the time. You know, it's like I can't just sit here and be still. Yeah, exactly. And I've just shed pounds, so it's been kind of nice. There's a benefit to it. I know it's I'm kind of poking fun a little bit, but there's always a silver lining, right? You got to find those silver linings and exploit the hell out of them, right?
right.
I always say burning calories. The shade.
Right.
Yeah.
I like Joe Narciso, and one of our new ambassadors says, I tell myself, don't trade today for a tomorrow that might never come, meaning you might not get dementia or dystonia. True, right? Like you might not.
Yeah.
Definitely might not. And someone says, Gavin, just consider that it's possible that nothing gets to you. Not saying I'm there, but we need not assume stress is a given.
Right.
Yes.
Also, I would add, don't identify too strongly with your thinking. If you can somehow remember, like Kat says, and we've all sort of said it in different ways, nothing is permanent. Everything is just this finite little blurb. Don't sit there and think, oh my God, my symptoms are so much worse. Now it's all downhill from here. I better get my euthanasia plan. Where's my will and testament? Don't catastrophize if you can help it. I do that regularly, so I know what it's like. You know, I mean,
Don't believe everything you think.
right. In the next hour, it will be different. The next day, it will be different.
Early on in my diagnosis, I remember asking my doctor once, I said, well, I don't have tremor yet. She goes, what do you mean yet? I said, well, I don't have tremor yet. She goes, you may never get tremor. So, and I still don't have much tremor at all. And it never occurred to me, I thought early on I was going to get all the symptoms, and, you know, maybe I will someday or maybe not, but that's just to your point. I mean, that's kind of how it, yeah. Woo!
Yeah, and even so my dad had Parkinson's and died from Parkinson's related complications, and his Parkinson's was very different than mine. We were diagnosed at different times. I was waiting for for myself to have a lot of dementia, and maybe I'm fooling myself, but most of the time I'm fairly with it. And yes, I have trouble multitasking. I have some trouble with cognitive stuff, but I'm not struggling a lot with dementia, at least that I remember. So my husband tells me it's not bad yet either. So that's
Not bad yet.
So I had a great question in here that I think
So many.
so Nikki says, how do you handle or grieve the loss of friendships post-diagnosis?
Ooh, that hurts. Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that so acutely. It's so hard on others to see we're the ones changing so rapidly, and they see it and they just don't know. Like, for example, did you know a lot about Parkinson's before you had it? I'm going to say I didn't. I knew some people who had it, but I didn't really understand them. And we're asking a lot of our friends to come along with us and be on our level and learn at our, you know, and try to learn how to communicate with us. And you'd think it would be so simple, right? Like just have compassion for each other. But the truth is they're going through their own stuff simultaneously. And a lot of our changes aren't seen with the naked eye. They're not seen with the untrained eye. So please just be patient with them. It's not personal. It hurts so much to watch everybody changing and growing apart, but friendship is voluntary.
Yep.
And family often doesn't even understand, even though they try.
Yeah.
You know, so I just want to add that in.
Sri?
That's a good one. You know, I think it's kind of interesting for me is I don't know that I've lost many friends. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. Most of them left because I retired from work, and that's where all my friends seem to be in the workplace. But I made millions of new friends, and it's been an absolutely wonderful adventure for me in that sense. Just getting to know people all over the country. This group here, none of us live in the same city, and that's been really good. So there's ways. I mean, I know getting involved and being active is not everyone's forte, but you know, get out there a little bit. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. My neighbor has Parkinson's, and he and I have become really close friends.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
coincidentally, right?
And Sri, and then just one quick thing I want y'all to address if possible is I think when sometimes, at least when we've talked to people about, hey, you know, there are a lot of people in the Parkinson space, you might meet them and, you know, find new friends in the Parkinson space. And I want to stress that what I've heard, at least, and you guys can speak to this, is that, you know, when you're with your friends who have Parkinson's, it's not all about Parkinson's. You guys are just happening to do things and happen to have this thing in common, just like somebody might happen to have a political or a religious thing in common, or you happen to have 4-year-old boys, right? This is just, it doesn't mean that getting Parkinson's friends mean your whole life and everything you talk about is going to be Parkinson's. Sri.
So I think when we think about friends, for me, I've lost friends not because of Parkinson's, but, you know, I've lost friends. I've been around for a few decades. Strange to think that, but you have lost friends due to marriage. You know, somebody gets married, somebody gets a boyfriend, a guy friend, a girlfriend, a partner, you know, they, them, whoever, they get married, they get a partner, and suddenly they disappear. And suddenly their whole life is different than yours, or they have kids and I don't have kids and I'm single. So I lose friends that way. So it's not that we're just losing friends that because of Parkinson's disease. We can lose friends for many reasons. And it's not really losing them. They've just moved on to something else. And I will say that the friends that I have lost, whether it's due to Parkinson's or not, due to life changes, it hurts, especially when they've been around for like 20 years, 25 years, and all of a sudden they're gone. And you're not really sure why. You're thinking, okay, I didn't tremor too much in front of you. I didn't like pee in front of you. I didn't, but what was it that you couldn't handle? Was it your husband, or was your boyfriend, or were you just not able to see me get ill, or did you just get involved in your own life? So I think the loss always remains depending on who the friendship is. or the nature of the friendship, and you just learn to deal with it, and you build your life around new friendships or a new strength that you find in yourself. But that doesn't mean the loss doesn't still hurt, because you look back on memories and think, oh my God, that's who I went to prom with, or she helped me choose my wedding dress, or she was my bridesmaid, or I was her bridesmaid, and now that's gone, and it still hurts, but it gets a little bit easier with time. You know what I mean? And other friends have mentioned to me, you didn't leave the friendship they did. Why would you keep thinking about someone who's no longer putting in the effort? Because you want them to put in the effort. You want them to be the person that you thought they were. And sometimes that's not possible. So for me, I just try and accept that pain or that loss as much and move on. And for me, the friendships I've made after that have been so amazing, so much stronger. So, you know, make new friends and try and keep the old. One is silver, some are gold. That's my Girl Scout saying.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Haven't heard that in a while, Sri. Thanks.
And
Try
I
to bring
Tom,
back
like,
an oldie but goodie.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I found the same thing as you did, Tom, kind of the retiring or leaving work, and also leaving work hours. You know, in my 40s, all of my peers were still working full time, and so that it gave us less in common to connect around. I still have contact with a lot of my midwife colleagues, but it's way more sporadic. And what I found is that, again, I don't wish Parkinson's on anybody, but I do believe this community of people is pretty exceptional. And sharing that common ground, it just helps from having to spend a lot of time explaining about what's going on with your body. You can kind of get to the good and rich stuff quicker because you're not so busy explaining why your hand shakes and why you're having trouble getting in the door, or why you list one way or have bruises here and there. It's compassionate and caring. So
yeah, Brian Reedy. Hi, Brian. He says, I find making friends in the Parkinson's community is easier. It's like all of the normal pretenses are gone and people are just more genuine, open, and reachable, quick with vulnerabilities and honesty. I think that's what you were getting at there, Kat, is there's just not that, like, you guys just get each other, right?
Yeah, there doesn't need to be a lot of explanation. And there are so many little nuances and idiosyncratic things that happen that require explanation for some people. You know, there
like
are
laying down in the middle of the floor and needing to put your feet up when you're sweating profusely and it's hot. So, right. And me saying, don't worry, I'm a medical professional. It's all okay. I just need to be here for a second. I'm handling the situation. But,
Don't step on me.
Right. And I'm not trying to be high drama. I really am not trying to be high drama. I'm just trying to not fall over and faint. Right. Please don't step on me, Tom. Right. Does anybody have a pillow? Right?
And it's especially painful for those of us who might be a little more introverted, or maybe we just died drawing attention to ourselves. I happen to not fall in that category. But I would say many of us,
Heather?
many of us are more modest and they don't want to bring attention to themselves. They're trying so hard to just skip over it and oh, I'm fine. When in fact, they're not fine. And they do need support. So at least we can support each other on, you know, on the backside here. I would also mention, always check your, what's bringing you joy. Have something to look forward to. I ask people that instead of how are you or what do you do for a living at a party, I often say, hey, you know, what's giving you some juice? What's bringing you joy? Stay focused on something to look forward to. It is so important for your gratitude and just to lift your mood. Jan Grimes talks about this a lot. Many people have spoken about this because we get a raw deal. So,
what was I going to say? So yeah, the interesting thing to me is I would send links to my parents, to my family about, hey, I'm on this podcast talking about Parkinson's, or here's an article, and not a single person read it. Not a single person looked at it. I think my friends did, but nobody in my family did. So still after 6, 7, 8 years, something like that with this disease, my family still doesn't get it. They still don't understand it. A lot of my friends don't, but but many people do. And I will say what I did was, for Parkinson's Awareness Month, and I mentioned this before, last year, I did a series of self-portraits and poetry about what the disease was like for me day to day to day. And I didn't share it with anyone in the Parkinson's community. I mean, if they follow me on Instagram, they do, but they don't, because I didn't advertise it. But I targeted it towards the people who don't know anything about Parkinson's. And they found it very helpful actually. And many of them reached out to me saying, oh, my dad or my grandfather has Parkinson's, and you've helped me understand what they go through. So that was really helpful. I did a series of audio recordings, just about anything. It was like about Kleenex, it was about orange juice, whatever. And I threw in a little tidbit here and there about Parkinson's disease on my website, which I'd forgotten it was even online. And I had a guy that I knew a couple of years ago reach out to me to say, hey, I didn't know that there was executive dysfunctioning in Parkinson's disease. He says, my dad has Parkinson's and I've never been able to understand him. And his dad is like 50, 55 years old. And he said, thank you so much for this. I wasn't expecting it. And now I think I understand him a little better. So then I sent him a bunch of articles in English and French because he's from France to help him understand what his dad is going through. So I think there are many ways to reach people. Sometimes the way to reach them is not specifically to talk about Parkinson's, but to include little drops and tidbits in your daily conversation, or if you are on social media or you are an active advocate, to do it that way. The whole episode, the whole post doesn't need to be about Parkinson's disease. You know what I mean? You can think about engaging them or drawing them in other ways. And I found that's been helpful.
And I have found it very, very helpful to have friends that know how to engage on social media and will teach you. Thank you, Sri. Thank you, Heather, because that is not my forte. And I'm still an active student in this process. So, because I don't know a lot about that part, but I agree with you, not having it all be about Parkinson's all the time.
Yeah.
Or sweat or heat.
Or heat and humidity. Somebody said, I think it was Pam that said, somebody had mentioned that people will come to you and say with that, how are you kind of question. She says, I hate that question so much. And I think, what do you guys do when you get that question? Somebody said something like, oh, well, I've showered, or, they might say, are you talking about my Parkinson's, to get more specific. But what are some of the ways that you respond when you are faced with that? Because I know all of you are.
I just say I'm fine. Everything is fine. Or people will come up and ask me, how is your health? And I'm just like, stab myself.
Yeah.
I'm just
Pain.
Yeah. And I just say, like, if it's a good friend and I know that they mean it from a good place and I haven't seen them in a couple of years just because that's life, I'll just say, you know what, it could be better. It could be worse. I should be doing things better and it's progressing, but I do the best that I can. There you go. Heather's getting out her S&M stick. Good job, Heather.
Right? Isn't that what we do?
Yeah.
TMI hashtag. TMI, Heather.
How about if they lean in and they call you ma'am?
They don't call me that.
Oh, Tom.
Oh, I get called
Yes, sir.
auntie now.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, getting called auntie by someone who's 30 years old is so disconcerting to me, because I'm like, oh my God, when you were 10, this was great. But now that you're 30, I feel so weird. So strange. But yeah, no,
Right?
I just treat them with as much kindness and compassion as possible, because they're doing the best they can. At least they're asking,
Mhm.
And somebody thought I had cancer because I shaved my hair. And she just approached me in public and said, are you ill? Are you sick? What's wrong with you?
Is there a discount?
Yeah. And I'm like,
Kidding?
I sometimes my patience gets, and I just make a very cheeky remark, and then they just look at me blankly, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't work very well. So
I mean, so as an outsider, it's interesting to me because, right, I feel like we have the same amount of conversations around this. They're coming up and they're asking you, and, we'll say like, oh, I'm fine, or make a quick quip about it or something like that. But then on the other side, we're like, but don't think I'm okay because I'm not okay. So as somebody who's talking to people with Parkinson's, I don't have it. What do I do in that situation? What is somebody who's doing it in that situation where if you're just like, oh, I'm fine, and I don't know anything about Parkinson's, I'm like, oh, well, they're fine, but you're 100% not. And so I just find that an interesting.
Lately I've been saying, because people will say, gosh, but you look like you're doing so well. And what I'll say is, I'm really on right now and my meds are working really well right now. Or I'll say I'm really well medicated right now.
Yep.
Or this time of the day is a good time of day for me. Conversely, they never say, oh, you look like you're doing horrid, right? I just get more like, are you okay? Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
later, you know.
Do you
when I'm
ever use the
symptomatic.
terms? Do you ever tell them? I've always thought it would be in sort of straightforward to say I'm on or I'm off and teach them really
Yep.
quickly. What does it mean to be on? What does it mean to be off? And I don't know if that's just too much for somebody, but I feel like if you're like, oh, I'm on right now, my medication's working really well.
It's sort of like when you have little kids and the little kids ask you, like they're 3 or 5 or 7 years
Right.
old, and they want to know what those 2 dogs are doing. You don't describe it in great detail. You just kind of give them what they need to know, right, and move on.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a
Same kind of
midwife,
thing.
Tom, so
Okay.
I did a lot of in detail.
That's maybe.
My
I'm
stock
sure the
answer-
back seat of Kat's car when she was driving her kids to school was full of all the real interesting information.
Oh, God.
so
It's
my
like
stock
either you're a
answer is always
serial
like this.
killer or you're helping people.
Right.
My stock answer has always been, I say, how are you? And I said, never better. And then I'll say, well, that's a lie. But, and here, they laugh at that. It's a lie, but I'm never better. I couldn't be
Yeah.
any better today than I was yesterday, right?
And that's true. We are
Yeah.
fortunate. There's a fun woman who does some MS talks called MS Confidential. And she
Mm.
says, when people lean down and they're like, ma'am, can she hear me? Can she hear me? Ma'am. She's like, oh, there's a screenshot for you.
Oh, we'll
Got
get
it.
it. That's going to be the feature image, Heather.
I
Love
know.
it.
But they, come on and join us. We're really
Yeah.
light and airy.
Speaking of introversion,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I will say that when I've tried to honestly tell people how I'm feeling, they're within not even 1 minute, within 30 seconds, their eyes glaze over and they literally start walking away. And I've tried that with even people that I know care about me. And I'm like, wow, so maybe you don't care about me, or maybe you just don't want to handle it, or maybe it's that question that people ask, hey, how are you doing? And they don't really expect you to respond. So they ask, how are you doing? How's your health? With the intent of you just saying, I'm fine and everything is okay, because anything more they can't handle. So I think you have to
Right.
know who your audience is, who the person is, and
Yeah.
respond accordingly. And sometimes your brain isn't capable of handling all that. So I just say, I'm fine, and I move on. And if they really want to know, then they'll figure it out, because clearly if you have Parkinson's, you're not fine. So if they're not able to figure that basic thing out, I don't have the energy all the time to educate them. It's not my responsibility to educate everyone all the time. Here's the Zoom link, here's the podcast link, take the time if you're a good friend and you care. If you don't, fuck off. Sorry.
point. Good point.
Woo! We're
Sorry.
getting
Gassy up in
Saying
here.
symptomatic. Saying symptomatic is a
Yeah.
descriptor. I'm feeling really symptomatic. I've used that from the very beginning with my family, because I can have a great day and still be really symptomatic. I can have a really crummy day and look like I'm fine, right? So I think that just like anybody else, we just show it more on the outside if we're having more symptoms. And I don't even like the medical establishment, defining things as bad or good, because that's laden with judgment. That's therefore saying that when I'm having Parkinson's symptoms, I'm bad. When
Right.
I'm having Parkinson's symptoms, I'm ill. I feel like I can live a really healthy life, even with a chronic disease. I can eat well, I can take good care of my body, I can work out, I can, watch my other risk factors for disease. But as soon as I start telling myself that I'm sick, or that I'm ill, or that I'm bad, that's the language that'll take me into that rabbit hole. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm simplifying it too much. For me, it's almost that simple though.
Yeah, yes, I just saw a note from my good friend Brian Reedy where he said it's positive self-talk, Tom, when you say that you're never better. That's right, Brian. And
Yep.
What
Brian,
about,
I need my
That's
water bottle back.
that's definitely Davis thing. He
Yeah,
doing great.
yep.
Big smile, right?
How do
And
you
just a couple of,
respond when
go ahead, Heather.
how do you respond when someone says, oh, you look better, you're getting better? Oh, Kat, you look better. Sweet. Oh, look, you're all better today.
Yeah, this one is funny. She said, okay, so somebody
Yeah.
said, my oncology doctor said I didn't look like I had PD, and I responded, I'm well medicated. Obviously this doctor
I get
doesn't
that.
know about that.
Right.
This is funny. People say, don't worry, you'll get better. Or have you tried tart cherry juice?
Ah,
Or cinnamon.
Or
That's my
cinnamon.
favorite.
Cinnamon.
I heard that a
Joe-
lot from my son with type
Oh,
1
yeah.
diabetes. Has he put cinnamon on his feet?
Right.
So that's my answer to everything. Honey, let's try some cinnamon today.
That's a
Joe,
little
Agree with that
TMI,
this
Kat.
time.
It's a little TMI.
I was an actor before I went on disability, and so many people say, you look great, you should go back to work. I'm sure you guys get that too, right? Like, you should go back to work.
I've never gotten
I
that
think
one.
sometimes with Parkinson's, we all have to be actors, not to say that the people who are saying they're actors are not actors, but I act a lot like I'm normal just to get through the day. And it's if I really acted if I really let people see how I feel all the time, which I've actually done on this call, which is shocking to me, someone who never likes to go on TV. I just have been completely blank because the meds haven't kicked in. I didn't have the energy to act today. Like I couldn't really. But that energy we put into acting like we're normal and that everything's okay is another level of exhaustion. You're already fatigued or tired or exhausted from dealing with this disease. And then you have to act like you're normal at a party or at an event, or make yourself be more on than you are possibly. So we do that all the time. And I think sometimes we do that for our own self and for our own sake and the sake of others, because if they really see sometimes the darkness inside, it can be overwhelming to them and to us too. You know, so we just take it day by day and we say things like, we're doing well, we're doing fine, we're doing great, because we need to hear that. You know, we do.
Yeah. Chip Westbrook says, I think this comes from one of the early Stoics. It will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. I love that too. I actually have that up in my house.
Brilliant.
There you go. I like that.
And
That's good.
Steve Plum, this is great. How are you? That question doesn't bother me. I just respond naturally. I think maybe naturally. I assume that they care about me, whether they do or not. That is great. Excellent. Turmeric and marijuana. Yeah, everyone's
Right.
gonna do those too. That's
There we
what the
go.
synonym.
There's a
Right.
latte.
That's what
There's
the
a latte
synonym-
that has turmeric and marijuana in it. I'm sure
Oh my
somewhere.
gosh. I'm missing the boat, I tell you. I gotta get some
Come to the
cinnamon
Bay
to it.
Area, Tom. The Bay Area's got everything.
Great. Oh boy. Well, thank you everybody for being here today. Thanks everyone for showing up. We really appreciate it, for participating in the chat, asking questions, sharing your challenges. This is a full community and it's really, really nice to have everyone here. We will send you the recording, the transcript, the audio, the chat questions, anything that we talked about in the link. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you know, between now and let's see, what month are we going to be? September. You can just email us at blog@dpf.org. And I'm not sure if I have this in the chat for everybody. I'm just going to send to somebody. Yeah, wow, 60 minutes here always only feels like 10 minutes with a lot of good info. Agree, Brian. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we will see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Gene Hammond.
Bye.
This is a lifesaver for us too.
Yeah, thank you. Great to see everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.